I really want to be a rock star when I grow up. I'm really musical. When life before I got sick was kind of cool. I always used to just play around the equipment. I used to read books.
Alexander, one Saturday afternoon, said that he had a sore tooth. By the next morning, he'd woken up with a very swollen cheek. We took him to the nearest hospital. The next day, they diagnosed him with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is the most common form of childhood leukemia, and leukemia itself is the most common childhood cancer.
In New South Wales, the figure's about 230 children a year. And in Australia, essentially over 600 children diagnosed with cancer a year.
Unless you receive medication or chemotherapy, you'll die. And that's certainly what happened in the old days.
You have to almost classify it as one of the miracles of modern medicine, in that if you go back 50 years ago, the cure rate for children with cancer was about 20%, perhaps even less. And in the last 50 years, it's gone up to 80% for the average child who comes through our front door. It's a very long and hard road, which involves prolonged hospitalisation.
It was fairly immediate. He was put onto a protocol, which is more or less a recipe of drugs. And that protocol, or that recipe, was to go for 2 years. The first 8 months was fairly intensive intravenous chemotherapy. And the last 15 months, Alexander was going on monthly visits to the hospital for checkups and was taking daily oral chemotherapy.
Because this is bringing a lot of memories back. That's when I was in cancer, and this is the chair that my mum used to be in. And I used to stay in bed and just watch a little TV. This is my drip pole and my PJs.
The treatment goes on for 2 years, and so he's just completed his therapy. By and large, you would look at a boy like Alex when he finishes treatment and see a normal, healthy person who's going to take his place in the world, over the next sort of 50 to 70 years. However, he's had a big gap in learning, and that's currently a problem that's not well catered for by the system.
Sitting down on a seat and having to participate in a structured learning day, certainly he really suffered from having about 8 or 9 months off school.
The best thing about being back at school was going to the library and meeting all my friends. Yeah, I was worried about them meeting new friends and then I'll lose them.
He came back very aware of, where he was. What had happened was he'd fallen behind due to it, so he was often needing a lot of support.
I was afraid and I felt like I was stupid.
Often he'll get tired and you see when he's tired, he's just had enough.
I tried to catch up with homework. Me and my dad now work together and do homework together.
So he's quite behind with mathematics.
No problem getting his pocket money, so he can count to $3. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, that's right.
They say also with math, of course, it's that you can't just lose a part, you have to have every stepping stone along the way.
When kids are returning, from my experience with Alexander, the most important thing is to form a partnership with the parents, and that's where you can actually start to speak to parents about what kind of human resources and programs they can access through hospitals to bring kids up to speed.
You've got to be streetwise. You've got to be able to stand up and yell at the point you think you need to have help. And so at that point, that's when we made contact and organised to get onto the learning program.
Each child has their own individual file, which has progress reports, school reports and assessments. Alexander did have an assessment, and that assessment pinpointed his individual needs, and this assessment was carried out by an educational psychologist.
The best thing about having a learning program teacher is that they're going to help me with any questions that I find hard.
We focus on both the strengths and the weaknesses because you want to encourage their confidence as well as their ability.
And he has a great time for an hour, and that's how he sees it. and he tells me about the learning, it is fun.
So when you actually ask him, do you learn something about it? And he actually says, yeah, I really like it, I really now understand so and so, whatever they're going through.
They trick them, they trick these children into learning and making it fun.
He responds well to using manipulative materials and doing hands-on tasks. So if we're talking about time, I'm going to give him a clock and then he can show me times. I've noticed his confidence has definitely developed. He is a confident child, but just his willingness to give things a go has increased.
What I like is that the school have modified the amount of homework that he'll get on the day he goes to the learning program.
We've only got great praise for the Ronald McDonald learning program. It's been a great support for this gap in learning that children who have been treated often for many months, sometimes years in hospital, it's their only hope actually to make up for that deficit. I think that a lot of families would be really lost without it.
When I like to do when I finish school is I want to have a band. I want to have a good, successful life, and I really want to have an electric guitar.
He's such a bright, clever, talented, creative little boy. I want him to reach his full potential in those areas, and of course he can't do it if he can't read and write and add up. Because all of those rock stars that have managers that rip them off, we don't want that to happen to Al, do we?